locate in your scripture, we're going to be bouncing a couple of places. We're going to be in Acts chapter 14 today, and also in 2 Timothy chapter 1. But it'll become real apparent as we go. You get a little bit of Greek mythology today too. Not on the same scale as the gospel, but certainly it makes sense out of this particular passage. The passage doesn't make any sense unless you know the Greek mythology behind it. This is actually the riot or the hullabaloo that happened in Lystra. That's what we're going to study today from Raphael, not the Ninja Turtle. Raphael, the actual artist. But what you see back here is really, of course, you've got Barnabas and Paul here, supposedly. But this is the one I want you to see way in the back there. That's Mercury or Hermes. Okay, that's so you're going to know him. If you don't point him out, you miss him in the whole bunch of folks back there. Okay, now to get up to speed with where we're going as far as this passage is to go. I want us to get sort of going up to speed. Next week starts our 50-day spiritual adventure. 50-day spiritual adventure this year is going to deal with thriving spiritually. A lot of times that we look at our Christian life and we go, okay, I keep a pilot light on, so to speak, and I deal with life and whatever. And if I'm in a horrendous accident or someone I love has some trouble or something, I'll try to get more spiritual so I can pray more and all that. But what I want us to look at is over the 50 days going into Easter time, starting next week, is I want us to be able to do our little memory verses and stuff going into our journals and read a little bit of Scripture every day, just a piece of it. And then to actually turn around and see, week by week, doing some extracurricular stuff on where you work and what you do, thinking about what you're doing, not any different than you normally do, but thinking about why you do what you do. And to figure out that I can actually thrive spiritually, not just kind of get along spiritually. Most of the time we don't challenge you to do that. We go week to week to week to week. This is going to be a concerted effort for 8 weeks to say, I want you closer to the Lord in the 8th week than the first week. I want you to get closer to Him and definitively closer. I want to look at it and say, no, really, I know the Lord better. I feel better about going and talking with Him as a friend, as someone who is for me, not against me. That is someone that loves me enough to die for me. We know that as Savior, but also to have that inside feel of us. To say, now I can really trust God to hear the stuff that I'm trying to fix, and I can't. That's where we're going. What I want us to do is to look a little bit at where we're going to talk about today, so you got to get oriented. This is modern-day Turkey. Old Asia Minor, Istanbul or Constantinople, depending on where you are in history, is up in this area. Down in here is the Holy Land, down in here. What happened to the Holy Land was after Jesus arose, was with his disciples and stuff for 40 days, ascended up into heaven, and then Christianity took off, literally. The Way, as they were called then, started spreading. Well, when that started to spread, the same folks that led a crowd to scream, crucify him, crucify him, in Jerusalem, brought real heat, not just from the Jewish standpoint, but also Rome was starting to be concerned about this as well. And it started spreading out all over the place. It's called the diaspora, or the dispersion. Is that it was, Christianity is like a grease fire. The more you persecute it, the better it does. It splashes out all over the place, and they're finding out, ISIS is finding out the hard way, that there are people praying in the midst of that. There are literally visions being held by people because there's no gospel witness there. Is that Jesus is stepping in Himself through dreams, visions, all kinds of stuff that we would feel not as comfortable with because they don't have a Bible to work with. But God still loves them and died for them, and He's literally in the middle of the persecution of Christians in even that part of the world, the gospel's spreading and thriving. It's amazing stuff. Well, that's what happened. So the gospel went from down in here in Israel up into Syria to a town called Antioch. Now, if you notice, there's two Antiochs. There's Antioch of Syria, and then Antioch over here of Poseidon. They usually call it Poseidon Antioch or whatever. We're just going to point at it and have you know that there's two Antiochs. Okay? One of them is over here, one of them over here. This is where the gospel really went and found a home. In fact, in Scripture it says they were first called Christians in Antioch. Well, Jerusalem is Antioch. And the idea was that they got together, started talking back and forth. Barnabas decided, we need really a leader type. And that young guy that we brought in that was really changed, Saul, whose name was Paul now, had gone into Arabia, got with a disciple there, had really got up to speed, and had gone back over here to a little town called Tarshish. Okay, it's in this area of Asia Minor where it kind of meets. But in here, he went up and grabbed Saul, who now we'll call Paul, and brings him back down there for a full year. He gets up to speed, so to speak. So Barnabas and Paul are your first missionaries that they're going to send out and say, we want you to take the gospel from this place, we're going right here, up into this area. Well, they go from here to Crete right off the bat because Barnabas, the old dude, that's his home. And it's like, we're going to go on our home turf first. Okay, I know where to go there and who to speak with and things to do. And they literally land on one end, go down, and they're going to come off the other. Now, then they're going to the continent itself. Young man that's following along with them, a guy by the name of John Mark, you will know him just as Mark, one of the gospel writers, is just a young guy here, and he goes with them this far, and gets to about right here. He goes, He turns around and goes, of which Paul does not like. Okay, it's going to be a little problem later on. But as we look at it, they go from here down in here to Cyprus, and they're going to go up here to Pamphylia, which is Persia, right there. Now, when they hit the shore, it is a ominous looking coming in. There's big mountains and stuff. It looks like Lord of the Rings. I mean, it really does. It's scary stuff. Mobile, here it comes. Okay, it is scary looking stuff, and if I was John Mark, I'd probably be scared myself. Also, this is a notorious area for malaria. Everyone gets sick in this part of the world. It really does. Okay, and they hit Perga, which Perga is still there, by the way. It's some of the best ruins that you'll see. It is a magnificent ancient town. You can go up through the colonnades and all the way around. Got a better shot of it right here. I mean, it is quite an archaeological, wonder to go through Perga. They don't do great there. They do okay. They're talking back and forth and all that, but Perga is kind of like the by the shore town and all that. You've got to kind of get away from that if you're going to talk to somebody, because this is a busy place. They moved from Perga up to the other Antioch. So they've gone from Antioch to Antioch. I knew that would be a problem for us. Okay, so they go up to Antioch up here, which is in Poseidon. And as they hit Antioch, by the way, it's still there as well. Okay, we can go through the ruins of that. They do surprisingly well. They're getting the gospel out. People are saying, could have had a V8. We missed our Messiah. The folks in the synagogue are wanting to switch over and become Messianic Jews. Okay? When we always say that, you don't have to un-Jew yourself if you're a Jew. What you do is you're going to come not saved any different way than a Christian is, or any other Christian is saved. You say, I need a Savior. Only I have a heritage that backs it up back here. I'm accepting Yeshua, Jesus, as the Messiah, and I'm taking him on Jesus Savior. Same type of thing, only you just got a little genealogical, thing that is a little quirk that goes with that, but you don't have to stop being Jewish. What you have to do is say, no, we missed the Messiah. Pick him back up, so to speak, He was the Savior that everyone else was looking forward to seeing. We've already had him. Okay, we're looking forward to seeing him again on a whole different thought. Okay, and so they roll up to Antioch. Antioch is doing great until some of the leaders, just the same as Jerusalem, in the Jewish temple, Jewish synagogues, get upset. We're losing power. We're losing money. And they turn on those folks. Not only excommunicate them out of temple and synagogue and all that, but openly, now they know the ticket from down in Jerusalem what to do. You just yell crucify them or try to kill them one way or the other, and you eliminate those folks who are barking out. Okay? Really nice environment, right? Okay? That's exactly what was happening, and they just plain said, hit the road. And then, by the way, they had good roads. Okay? This is Roman and Greek road, and it still exists. Not in the form that it was at that time. This looks more like the road that I was used to going into my home in West Virginia. Right there. I've looked at that a lot of times. We had actually more holes than that. So, you know it's a bad pothole when your lights go down in it. You know? And you come back up out of the pothole. You know it's a bad. Say, get out of town. Go. Get out of here. And they do. They go to Iconium. Now realize they have walked about 100, 125 miles to get to Iconium. They're not done yet. They've walked. Now they're going out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Iconium is nowhere. Lystra and Derbe are worse. Okay, they're beyond nowhere. You went to the end of the world and 5 miles further. Okay, that's really what's happening. And it happened at Iconium that they were together in the synagogue with the Jews, and they spoke, and a great multitude of the Jews and Greeks believed. That's the important part. Okay? Now watch this. And unbelieving Jews were stirred up, and the Gentiles poisoned their minds against the brethren. Okay? Now what you're going to find out is the way they did that was some of the folks from the last town of Antioch came over to this town with them. Well, we're not going to let you mess them up, you know, so they're over there. Therefore, they stayed a long time, boldly speaking the Lord, who was bearing witness to the word, through his grace, or by his grace, according to the signs and wonders that were done by their hands. Now, if you want to see this from NASA's perspective, here it is from the International Space Station, if you want to see where we're talking about. Okay, we've gone up to here, Antioch. Now we're going down here. At this point, they've done probably 150 miles. Walking inland. Now it's beautiful land. It's gorgeous. It really is pretty. And it's a whole lot like if you've driven through Wyoming. Wyoming, you know, about every 15 minutes on the interstate, you'll see a car. Okay? There's way more like animals than there are people. If you look around, you'll see a cow or a horse every once in a while. It is empty. Just empty. That's what this land looks like. Even today, you'll get a shepherd or two here and there, and there'll be a small village of maybe 20 people or something like that. But this is virtually just a blank slate, and it's rolling hills with trees. It's a pretty walk, but I mean, it's a walk. And so they're up and down, the two guys. You know, here goes Paul and Barnabas trying to get to the next place. Okay, they're going from Iconium, or going into Iconium. Now watch this. But a multitude of the city was divided by part of the Jews and part of the apostles. Then a violent attempt was made by the Gentiles and the Jews with their rulers to abuse them and stone them there. And they became aware of it and fled to Lystra, back out of that place, down the road, so to speak, to the cities of Lycaonia. Lycaonia is going to be a division of Galatia. Galatia was the big province. Then you're going to have the little province of Lycaonia that is going to be in there. And then Lystra is a town inside of that. And surrounding regions, and they were preaching the gospel there. I love it as you get ready to leave to go toward Lystra from Iconium. By the way, there's an interstate too. They have one. But these guys have road signs. I love it. They have roadside road. It's right in here. Lystra. I've got a better shot of it in a second. But there it is. There's your roadside. Go that direction. Who needs GPS? There it is. Lystra that way. Okay, right down the road. Here we go. And that's exactly what they do. Iconium through the valley into Lystra. Right here. That's the town we're going to be looking at today. Now you got to understand, with Lystra, I'm rolling into that town, but this area, the Iconium area, it has a basis, and doesn't make any sense unless you do a little teeny piece. I've never done this before. It's kind of fun. Of Greek mythology. Greek mythology has nothing to do with truth. Talk about fake news. It is fake news all the way around. However, it made a really nice story, and you got to realize, in that area of the country, in central Turkey, as you see, it changes foliage, and you have these really nice trees. They're called linden trees. It would be our equivalent of an oak or something like that. Beautiful trees, and they somehow end up with two of them, almost everywhere they go. So they had to figure out how do you have two linden trees. This was the story that they came up with, okay? No truth to it whatsoever. However, you got to know it to get the other part of the Bible story. So hang in there with me. The story goes like this. They made up the story. Two Greek gods were up in wherever they hang out, okay, in Greek mythology, Mount Olympus or wherever. And they're going to come down to earth and check out some towns in this province, by the way. So they kind of owned it in the list right here, and Lyconium especially. And they're going to come down and just talk to some folks and make sure they're hospitable. They're nice people all the way around. And so they send down Zeus, which is going to be your big, furry, big monster god, that has lightning bolts, and the storm god. Okay, big weather guy and all that. Zeus, powerful guy. And they're going to send the little upstart with him, Hermes, which we call Mercury, the winged messenger. He's clean-shaven, trickster, tries to mess with you all the time. Talking all the time. That's just the way he is. That was Hermes. They came down, disguised themselves, and started going to people's houses. Well, when they got a shock, because every time they went to literally 100% of the houses that they were going to, they said, "Get away from here, you beggars. We don't want you in this place." And they say, "Send them away, send them away." Finally, there's the last little hut going out of the town, and they stop, and they knock on the door. The door opens. There's an old woman there with an old man standing behind her. "Well, we're just coming to say hi. We're new in town," that kind of thing. "Come on in." So, they're friendly as can be. They must have been Southerners. Must have been a north-south town. They finally got down to the south end. Okay? "Come on in, give you grits and okra or whatever." Okay? "Here we go. We're going to have you come in." They give them literally almost all their food. They try to take care of them best that they can. Finally, Hermes looks over at Zeus and says, "Why should we keep it a secret what we're going to do to these people? They're nice people. They like us." And so they revealed themselves of who they were and said, "We're going to show you what we're going to do to all your neighbors." So literally they walked out and said, "See all your neighbors out there?" And all went, they disappeared. They're destroyed. And the entire area becomes a swamp. Just a swamp. And they said, "We want to reward you because you're the only ones being nice to us. What do you want for a reward?" And they said, "We just want to live together as a couple, our whole lives, live a long life, and die at the same time, because we don't want to be apart from each other." And they said, "Fine deal." So they went away. Couple lives for years and years and years. Finally, they get so old that one day they start looking at each other and they realize they have branches and leaves sticking out of their arms and in their bodies. And of course, as you get old, you get stuff. No, here we go. And so they leap out and they become linden trees. And the two of them stood beside each other forever. Wonderful story, isn't it? It's a cute story. But that's how they explain the two linden trees together, and that story of the gods coming down and what they've done. Now this is going to make way more sense to you. They come to Lystra, which you can see is in a nice little valley, but Lystra itself is actually mounded up on top of one another. It's still there. There it is, in all of its glory. It is just a big hill. And as archaeologists would call it, a tell, which is an archaeological parfait. is that they had a tendency to build their towns and then crush their towns if they got destroyed or run over, and build another town on top of that town. That town became the base for the next town. Then that one got crushed, and then it just literally is a parfait, and there were so many towns, that's how high it got. Okay? And so there's the hill. You get closer, it's no better. It's a hill. Okay? There's not much. You get on top of it, that's what it looks like. Great view, but it's just 4.5, 5 acres of nothingness. That's just the way it is. They haven't done any archaeological anything on this hill. If they started digging down, they'd probably find all the Lystras that they've been in times past. No one's messed with it up to now. You know, it's just like it's too remote. I mean, it is in the middle of nowhere, all the way around. Now you get the story. Acts chapter 14, verse number 8. And in Lystra, a certain man without strength in his feet was sitting. He was a cripple from his mother's womb, had never walked, ever. This man heard Paul speaking, and Paul observed him intently, and seeing that he had the faith to be healed, went over and said with a loud voice, he's going to make a deal out of this, stand up straight on your feet. And he literally leaped and walked. Get up from where you are. Never walked ever. There's your better one. Here we go. You ready? Get up. Walk. Walk. And now the people saw what Paul had done, and they raised their voices in the Lycaonian language, okay, the area of the people. The gods have come down to us again. I'll put in the likeness of men. They called Barnabas Zeus, and they called Paul Hermes. Now you know why they said what they said. Okay, that went all around the barn to get in the door. Here it comes. Okay, so that's why Barnabas, because he was the older guy and had the furry face. Okay, then you got poor Paul, which is obviously younger and clean shaven, so he gets that name. Okay, Paul is going to be Hermes because he was the chief speaker. Okay, because we know that Mercury talks. Okay, here it goes. You ready? Now watch what happens. It says the priest of Zeus came from the temple in the front of their city and brought oxen and garlands to the gate, intending to make a sacrifice for the multitudes to them, because they're the gods have come down to us again. And they're all thinking, no swamp for us, no swamp for us. We're going to be hospitable. We're not going to do this again. No. Okay? Not for us, thank you. We want to be nice. Everyone's going to be nice. But we're going to make a sacrifice to the gods this time. Meanwhile, here comes poor Paul and Barnabas, heard about this, okay, no fake news, all the real gospel, here it comes. They run out, tore their clothes, and going, that's grief. Oh, no. Ran out, tore their clothes, and multitude. Men, why are you doing these things? We also are men just as same as nature as you. We preach to you those things which you use, or those things, turn from those things which are useless things, and to the living God, who made the heavens and the earth and the sea, not Zeus, okay, and all the things that are in them, and then who are gone in bygone generations have allowed all the nations to walk in their own ways. The idea is, what he's saying is, don't sacrifice. We're men just like you. We're sinners just like you. We're saved by grace and mercy. You could be too. But, here we go, it is a free-for-all. It is a zoo. We got to sacrifice. We don't want the linden tree. Remember the linden tree story? Oh, no. Nevertheless, they did not leave themselves without a witness, or God didn't leave himself without a witness. I love this. People ask me this all the time. It said, he did good for us, bringing rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, and filling our hearts with food and gladness. A lot of people ask, what in the world happens in the world if a Christian missionary doesn't get there? What does God do with them? Well, that's God's job, not my job, to figure that one out. However, all men everywhere have enough in nature around them to say, this couldn't have happened by accident. There's too much complexity to this. You just don't evolve into something like this. You can't get this through chance, one way or the other. And if they turn and say, I want to know who made all this. If a missionary gets there and says, you know, you got the right idea. I'll give you the numbers that go along with this. And he literally cared enough to come down to earth, live a sinless life, and die a horrible death for you. If you can get there as a missionary and do that, learn their language, their culture, and be able to associate that and give that communication, that was the idea. If not, they are responsible for the light that they are given. In other words, if they see the sun come up and the moon come up, and they say, I want to know the God who made that. I want to know something bigger than me. Rather than say, I want to worship that object, or I want to worship that object, or I'll make one for myself, and I'll worship that, sort of make it up as I go. That's a whole different story. But he said, these things they could scarcely restrain themselves from the multitude from sacrificing. We're not going to become the linden tree, and we're not going to be a sloth. We're not going to do it. You're going to get a sacrifice whether you like it or not. We're rock stars. They just can't, you can't do it any other way. You ready? So, I mean, it is rough. I love it. Barnabas is going, oh, no. Oh, no. Don't sacrifice. Don't do it. Don't do it. And you knew what was coming. Then the Jews from Antioch and Iconium. You talk about walking a long way just to give someone else a bad day. I mean, what's with these guys? You know, it's like you didn't have enough to do. You needed a good video camera. You're just way too active here. They walked literally almost 100 miles from where these one of them walked about 25 miles, the other one walked about 50 more than that. 75, maybe, and then go back. The idea is, Antioch and Iconium came there, having the multitudes, I love this, and they stoned Paul. This is where Paul is stoned, at Lystra. One minute you're a rock star, and next minute you're a rock target. I don't know. What is with this? I did some study this week. Found out how they actually stone people. I didn't know it. I didn't get it. I thought everybody just picked, like, I thought, well, man, I think you could dodge a couple of those here and there for the Lord's sake. That kind of, no. What they do is bind you, take you to a little cliff, not a huge cliff, 15, 20 feet. Okay, that's usually what was prescribed. Bind you up, stand you at the edge, and say, confess your sin. If you confess your sin, they forgave you the sin, said God forgives you the sin, they push you off and stone you. Okay? If you don't, they push you off and stone you and say God didn't forgive you. Either way, you're going to get a rock no matter what you do. Many people die from the fall because you can't catch yourself when you're bound up, so you're falling on your head, literally. Okay? So plop, you're down there. Then, by the way, you're pushed by the two witnesses that have seen you do whatever you were supposed to have done. So they're guilty too. If they lied about it and they found about it in times past, they're pushed off because they murdered somebody. That's why they do it. Okay? That's why also Jesus said, if you throw the first stone. If the first stone is thrown by the main witness. Okay? And if we find out you lied, then you get it. Okay? Because now you're a murderer. They push them off. Then everyone in the town who thinks they're guilty, 1,000 people in town, 1,000 rocks. Okay? Pick a big rock as you want. And you dropped it on them. Now, if you missed, you missed. Okay? But you didn't, have to do, the 95-mile-an-hour curveball on them or something like that. Okay? You just dropped the rock on them. They're laying down there after plopped. And, by the way, it was a nice way if you had a lot of people in town to bury them at the same time. Because they had all the rocks. Okay. There we go. So they stoned him. Boom, knocked Paul down, stoned him there, dragged him out of the city because they didn't want him smelling up their area. Okay? Dragged him out of the city and supposing that he's dead. I love the picture. This is a good one. It's like, here we go. Drag him out. Stoned him to death. They thought he was dead out there. Now watch this. Great story. However, the disciples gathered around him. He rose up and went back into the city where they just stoned him. Okay? It's like, oh, you want to hear more? Okay. It's just like politicians. I said, you want water? We'll give you water. Here it comes. And the next day departed from with Barnabas to Derbe. That's the next town down. They're going to get there, and literally that is the end of the line. And you come back up. Okay? It was a series of forts, if you want to know from a military standpoint. The Romans had 13 military forts. It was like going out west, where you put a fort into every town so you can kind of take your folks who were traveling and run them from one fort to the next, try to stay safe. That's what the Romans were doing. And so they went to the next one down the line. And when they preached the gospel in that city, they made many disciples, and they returned. Can't beat this guy. To Lystra again, and Iconium, and Antioch. Right in your faith. Right back again. Strengthening the souls and exhorting them to the faith that we might, through many tribulations, enter the kingdom of heaven. When he went back to Lystra, again, he got to speak to a nice little Jewish household, so to speak. You're going to have Eunice, mama, and you're going to have Lois, grandmama. Both of those are Jewish believer types. They're wonderful. As soon as they hear the gospel, they go, ah, that's our Messiah. Goodness. They have a little kid that's with them. His name is Timothy. Being raised out in the middle of absolute nowhere. The trouble with Timothy that no one gets is that his dad was Greek, probably pagan. And because of that, you can just see Mama being so happy, here, oh, my baby, take it down to the rabbi and say hi, your rabbis love babies, that kind of thing. Hey. Says, notice it's the 8th day, Rabbi, get a clue, okay? And he says, don't you know, I'm sorry, your husband, they may have been married, they may have not. Either way, he's Greek. Deuteronomy 23:2 says, a mamzer, okay? We would use a different word that I'm not using from a pulpit. Okay? It means illegitimate child. Okay? A mamzer shall not enter the congregation of the Lord, even to the 10th generation he shall be held out of the congregation of the Lord. Deuteronomy 23:2. He's a mamzer. That's what it is in Hebrew. Mamzer. Mamzer was an outsider. People in the village didn't spit on you, didn't hate you. They just didn't include you. Special meetings, anything at the synagogue, education and all that. They didn't get to do any of that because you were a mamzer. Timothy was a mamzer. He's an outsider. He's pushed to the periphery. With that, you're going to have no education for him except at home. Grandma and Mom opened up the scriptures, and that's what he became a doctor. He knew the parchments. He knew the Torah. He knew the scriptures because Mom and Grandma taught him. A man's someone who's apart in the group. Paul does his little talk and all that, impressed by the kid. That's an impressive kid. He goes all the way back home and then decides to go on another missionary journey. The second missionary journey, this time he's going to take Silas with him. And he's going to go from Antioch, same place, over to his hometown of Tarsus. Then he's going to go this way. He knows he's going into Asia, but he purposefully goes through nowhere land to Derbe and where? Lystra. Why? Because there's a little kid in my head. That guy impressed me from the middle of nowhere. And that young kid walks out of that town with Paul, walks by his side for 12 straight years, and ends up being the chief rabbi of the biggest church in all the New World in Ephesus. Was the main rabbi in the middle of nowhere. Watch what Paul says coming with his last letter out. This is right before He's going to be beheaded in prison in Rome. It says, Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ by the will of God, according to the promise of life which is in Jesus Christ, to Timothy, Timotheus, okay? My beloved son in the faith. My beloved son. You hear that just dripping? He loves this kid. From the middle of nowhere. Mercy and grace and peace from our God our Father and our Lord Jesus Christ. I thank God to whom I serve and my conscience and forefathers did without ceasing. I remember you in my prayers both day and night, greatly desiring to see you, mindful of your tears. I know that you're missing me too. And we're filled with joy. And when I call to remembrance your genuine faith, which first dwelled in your grandmother Lois and then your mom Eunice, and I'm persuaded is in you also. You ready? Therefore I remind you, stir up the gift of God which is in you. Gift. Charisma in Greek. Get the word charismatic from that word. Grace gift. Gift given without anything that you work for, you just got. God says, I have gifted every one of my children for work, one way or the other, for the kingdom's sake. You may have a gift of organization that you can just take helter-skelter and turn it into just perfect, okay? You may have a gift of helps that you don't want to be in the limelight for nothing. You hate that, but you want to do some stuff around. You may have the gift of being able to sing or do stuff like that. You may have the gift of being able to teach. Whatever gift you have been given, stir it up. It is exactly what it sounds like. You got a fire, it's not quite going, it's embers and it's going, but what if you stir it up, blow on it a minute, it'll go. That's what he means. You've got a gift, son. Stir it up. Through the laying on of my hands, he says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, dunamis, dynamite. That's what it means. Power of love and a sound mind. Notice those trio. Not of fear. Power, love, and a brain. If you can put those together for the kingdom's sake, there are folks who are really brainy folks, but they're the most unlucky folks you've ever seen. Ooh, you know, you just don't. They're not just dry, they're mean dry. Oh, okay? You've seen powerful folks, oh, whether they have money or they just have personal strength, but they don't have any love for anybody. Then you've seen dowdy people that say, oh, I'll just put up with anything, you know, it's okay. God will just wink at that. No, he won't. I'm sorry. He loves you, has mercy, but he's also a God of justice and can hold the balance like this when we can't. The whole idea, if you put that trifecta together, power, love, and a brain, will change the world. That's where we're going. With 8 weeks, 50 days into Easter. Let's stand as we pray.